Welcome to the Shared Path. I'm Maggie Linton. Our next guest delivers a novel that perfectly blends adventure, humor, fun characters, relatable locations, and fantasy. Excited to chat with New York Times bestselling author Graci Kim as she wraps up her Gifted Clan series with The Last Fallen Realm. Welcome, Gracie.
No, thank you so much for having me, Maggie.
I really am enjoying this. And as I said just a moment ago, let's start with you beginning because your beginning is I'm Korean, but by the way, I wasn't born in Korea. I was born in Australia. So talk about that. Your little, was it Koei?
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so to clarify, I was born in South Korea,
Okay.
but I was raised in New Zealand. So
Okay.
I was 3 years old when our family immigrated to New Zealand. So I grew up here. And yeah, I like I said, I've called myself a Koei, like a Korean Kiwi, if you're going to put that into one word, maybe Koei works. So it's a proud identity of mine.
This wonderful series, when did you realize that it was time to write um, just in general, because your audience has been that middle school, teen, early teen years, but you give them so much encouragement.
Ah, thank you. So it's an interesting story actually of why and how I started to write. So before I was a writer, I was a New Zealand diplomat. So I was posted, I was at the time working at the New Zealand embassy in Beijing. So I remember going into work one day and turning on my computer to read my emails, only to find that I could not read my email. There was something wrong with my site. And so I walked into the optometrist, and the optometrist checked my eyes, and she got a bit flustered, and she medevaced me to a larger eye hospital where an ophthalmologist checked my eyes. And she sat me down and she said, Gracie, I don't know how to tell you this, but if you don't get emergency surgery within the next 24 to 72 hours, you'll be blind. And I remember being like, excuse me, what was that? Come again? And so I had the surgery the next morning. And for months and months afterwards, I was completely sightless as I, really hoped and wished in the recovery period to regain my sight. And so I really had to stop for a moment and think about what I wanted to do with my life. If my sight didn't come back, what was the thing that was going to live to give my life meaning? And so I started to discover stories again, which I had loved as a child, but I had kind of forgotten about because, stories and books suddenly become about homework and essays and things, and I had lost that spark.
Yeah.
Um, and it was only then that I was reminded of this teacher at school. So we had to write about our families. And I remember writing this thing about my family. I was very proud of it. And my teacher told me it was a good piece of writing, but she had asked me why I had described my family as being blonde and blue eyed. And I remember being very confused by that question because I had just assumed, because I had read a lot of books, but in books, people didn't look like me. And so I just assumed that regardless of who you were in real life, in books, you had to be white. I just thought it was a grammatical rule or something, an unspoken rule. And my teacher said, if it doesn't exist yet, it just means someone hasn't made it yet. And it had not registered as a child, but it was only during this time that I had this memory. And I just knew that I needed to write. It was something I wanted to try. Um, and for two reasons, for that kid in me and other kids like me who don't see themselves represented on the page, it's so important for us to know and to see that we can be the heroes of the stories too. And also for everybody else from every other walk of life to be able to pick up my books and be transported and have a bit of fun and magic and adventure. And to, I don't know, perhaps learn that despite our differences, what unites us is much stronger than the things that separate us.
Now, that's one of the things, like you said, no matter what you are, and boy, you give us a lot of what you are in this book, as you have, with all of the fantasy novels. But I have to say, Las Vegas, that was fun because I've been there and I've never had a bad time.
Oh,
Why Las
yeah.
Vegas this time?
So it's been really fun because the first book I set in LA, and that was a conscious decision because the Korean diaspora community there is so rich and large.
Huge, great food.
Yeah, exactly. And then the second book, I wanted to keep that going. And so the second book is actually set in the Korean spirit realm, but it's inspired very heavily by New York. So there are, little teasers about New York City in there. And so in the third book, I wanted to continue on the trend of setting it in, American, well-known American cities. And I just thought, like you say, Las Vegas is fun. What a place for a showdown. So I just had to choose Las Vegas. Yeah.
Let's talk about the lead character, Riley O, and of course her twin, Doll. They are a wonderful pair and so optimistic, but still unsure of themselves when the book starts.
Yeah, very unsure of themselves. I think that feeling of not being sure of yourself or not having that confidence in one's beliefs or one's abilities, that very much mirrored my own feelings as I was drafting that book. I think that is why so much of it has been pulled into the storyline, because I was really suffering from imposter syndrome. Being a writer is something that not many are able to do, right? And I feel it's such a privilege and honor to do. But at times I feel like, why am I doing this? Am I the right person to do this? Am I doing this well enough? Like, why are people publishing my words? Should they really be doing that? So these feelings of up and down, I really experienced, I think, alongside Ray Leo in that final book, which was really fun actually, and kind of therapeutic. Because as I had to push her through her challenges and for her to discover that actually she is capable, and that with the people that she surrounds herself with, she becomes even more powerful. I realized the same for myself. So it was a fun journey to go on.
You're wrapping up this series, but you say she told you, Riley told you it was time. I'm going, okay, the spirit is really taking over, isn't it?
Yeah, I think you spend so much time with characters that in some ways, I wonder if they're just parts of us. You create an external character, but perhaps, the characteristics and the way they react, they're just different multitudes within us that we just kind of pull on and develop a little more. Yeah, but it does sound quite weird, doesn't it? As if these characters are real.
All right, I want to talk about the realms, the spiritual realm, the mortal realm, and the God realm, because none of us live in just one world, and we should know about others too. And the fun you have with all of these different characters that come out of each of these. And give us the basis for the adventure this time, starting in Las Vegas, with doll and a toilet too.
Yes, that particular character is quite fond of toilets. Yes. Um,
Toilet
you
obsessed.
know,
So,
yeah.
I mean, your humor is great throughout. I have to give you that
Thank you.
really there. Really good humor.
Oh. The interesting thing actually you mentioned about the three realms, I have always found it really fascinating. So I grew up in the church, in the Christian church, because my dad's side of the family is Christian, and my mum's side of the family come from a Buddhist background. So we were fed this really interesting intel about the Buddhist way of looking at life and death and all of the things in between. And one of the things I was so fascinated about was this idea of reincarnation, which is kind of explored in the books, and which is where the spirit realm is based. This idea that when we pass, we go through a whole series of trials or experiences and reflection, but that we come back to life, but just in a different life. I just found that really fascinating. This like endless circle, really. So that is explored. And then in the final book, after so that whole idea of the reincarnation and the spirit realm is the second book, and then in the third book, it's really, like I said, set in Las Vegas, but it's a real showdown between Ryleo, the main character, and the six Korean goddesses from mythology. And I just love this idea that this small young girl, right, has to suddenly come head to head with six goddesses, six deities, this idea of human versus, you know, whatever is out there. So it was really fun to explore. And it's funny that I was mentioning before about characters almost being their own people, but the plot, for example, for the third book kind of just wrote itself in the sense that the characters had told me by the decisions that they had made in the first and second book what needed to happen in the third one.
Also, when you mention the realms and
Mm,
that when you just mentioned reincarnation, I thought,
mm.
well, people do come, sometimes when you're out and you're going around and you're looking and you say, well, I never want to be a bird and I never want to be a rabbit. What do you want to be? And then you start thinking about what would it be like to be that, and that's
Yeah.
what I when you said, reincarnation, I thought, yeah, these characters are all coming back, maybe because of what they asked for, and maybe
Mm.
because of the lessons they have to learn this time by being this.
Yeah, yeah. Fascinating way of looking at it, isn't it?
Yeah, it really
Yeah.
is. Yeah.
Mm.
All right. So let's talk about Hattie too, because it's the triumvirate, the trio that really gets this thing rolling with
Yeah.
Riley and Doll and Hattie. Because she's the sister who's like kind of, oh, okay, you all can go there.
So love Hetty because I think while Riley O draws a lot from my own experiences and my own personality, I think, and characteristics, I think Hetty is the person I wish I could be. There's always that person who seems so certain and confident and sure of themselves. And I think that's so beautiful. I mean, it's the diversity of people in a group that really make a group stronger, right? Like make that troop what it is. But we always need a Hattie in the crowd. I mean, you always need someone who's like, this is how we're going to do things, take the lead. Um, so I love that about her. And she was also not so much her traits per se, but the idea of this bond between the sisters, this unbreakable sisterhood, is very heavily drawn from my love of my own sisters. So I have two younger sisters, and we are so different. My parents often joke, how did one factory create three such different products? We are so different as humans. And yet yeah, we get along so well and we love each other and I really drew from that for Hattie and Riley's relationship as well.
All right, so we've got the three of what I call main characters. So Hattie's
Hmm.
kind of periphery, um, but I want to talk about also Emmett and Aram.
Hmm.
There are a key also two keys to really getting everything to the finish line.
Yeah, yeah. So Emmett, who is Riley's best friend, um, without providing any spoilers for people who
No,
haven't read the
no,
third
no
book yet.
spoilers here.
Yeah, yeah.
No.
Um, But he's one of those characters that are so fun to write because he's kind of snarky. Yeah, he has a personality, but he also has a soft side. I love characters that are layered and are so different from what you might initially think when you first encounter them. Characters that give surprise like that. I mean, like I said, he's a bit snarky. He dresses in all black. He's always got something to say about everything. But he also loves animals. He's a huge softie and he wants to open a bakery one day. And I had a lot of fun in the third book, uh, kind of developing him and developing his relationship with Riley as well. So that was a lot of fun. Now, Aram is a creature from Korean mythology. She's part woman and part bird. And I love Aram's character because this idea of a bird woman in Korean mythology is so prevalent in other mythologies as well, and I find that fascinating. That despite these different cultures from different parts of the world, how they have such similar characters that seem to pop up across the world, I find that really fascinating. But yes, Arum is yeah, I mean again, I don't want to it's hard to know what I can say, what I can't say. But in the
Well,
first book,
I'm letting you do the ship, okay? So,
okay,
but
I'll
I
drive.
had to mention,
Um,
I had to
yeah.
mention her because, again, a very important character. Now we've kind of gone around talking, but let's talk about what the last fallen realm is about, because the story within itself just continues to move. Written beautifully, some great humor, some great characters.
Thank you. So in the last fallen realm, Riley O, like I said, she is now preparing for war, essentially, with the goddesses um, from Korean mythology. And it is a journey that Riley O and her friends and family must go on in Las Vegas, or parts of it which looks like Las Vegas, um, to try to save the world, essentially. And I don't know how much more I can say, really, without ruining it. But like you say, characters from previous books come and play roles, and I hope it's fun. I mean, essentially, I just wanted it to be a good rollicking ride. And yeah, I just hope it's a satisfying ending.
Again, it's not necessarily good versus evil, as much as it is
Yeah.
the quest to control. Because
Mm,
I mean, we look at our world today. So much of the conflict is someone person or someone entity wanting to control others and only have them think a
mm,
certain way. And you
yeah.
basically point that out about how wrong that is, but
Mm,
in the right sort of way. Like kind of wake up, pay attention.
mm. Hey, thank you for pointing that out. I mean, what I really wanted to say was that there's always so many sides of every story, you know, and it is about control. It's not about someone or any entity being inherently bad or evil, inherently good and altruistic. I think everybody has their own lens, depending on what angle they're looking at the world or the situation. And so in the third book, yes, the goddesses are the quote unquote bad guys, but I hope it's evident that even they have their own reasons for why they do what they do, rightly or wrongly. We all are yeah, we are all led by our own experiences and our own lens. And that ultimately what we do have is choice. That everybody has the choice, because regardless of your age, because a lot of my readers are younger, it's something I try to always say in my school talks and visits is that the choice of how we perceive a situation and whether we choose to be resilient, whether we choose to be happy, or how we fare in the face of adversity, that choice that we make is something that no one can take from us and no one can make for us. And so it's like, to me, the one magic superpower we all have in the real world. And that's something I have tried and have explored, I hope, in the books as well.
Yeah, and you want kids, but anybody to learn to
Mm.
embrace their choices and also learn to look for the best in all.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
really,
absolutely. There is, because there is good in all of us, as there is darkness in all of us, because, it's just who we are. We are multitudes. We are complex human beings. So yeah, that choice that we make every day to live by what we believe in, and to be kind. I think that's so important, just to be kind. Sometimes I look around and I find we get so stuck in our ways and our own narratives that if we just pulled ourselves back and just remember to be, yeah, as simple as being kind, some of the problems in life wouldn't be so problematic, I reckon.
another thing you point out is to really think on your own. Don't be brainwashed. And that's what I'm calling it because you see people following, well, I'd say people, your characters following their leader, no matter what. And you're
Mm,
going, look, pay attention here. You're, in a sense, falling into that brainwashed realm, and you don't need to. You can be who you
mm.
are, just like you were saying.
Yeah. And I love this idea when I share about this book with young readers, is that I know magic in the sense of my books doesn't exist in real life, but I think magic really is everywhere if we look for it and if we just stop and let it bloom. And yeah, that's one thing I really would love for young readers to take from my books is that adventure and magic that comes from our choices, and not being, like you say, brainwashed by what is happening, but seeing that beauty in life and letting yourself shine and letting your life shine. Oh, I just really hope that that's something that some readers might be able to take away.
I want to thank you for the glossary.
It's very helpful, isn't it? Yeah.
Ooh, I'm telling you, it is so helpful. Um, as you make up these words and names and stuff, it's nice to understand what their meanings are within your books. And like I said, I haven't read the other two, but it was really helpful. And I kind of was going back and going, now, how do I pronounce this? And that was that just something to help you people to understand even more what you were writing?
Yeah, yeah, that's right. I think actually, now come to think of it, a lot of the books in the Rick Riordan Presents imprint have a glossary in the back because so much of these stories are drawn from different cultural mythologies. And because it is especially for young readers, I think it's been a real importance to make sure that these terms and these words and these characters are accessible. So yeah, the glossary I think is a great addition. I have to say one of the hardest things though about a glossary is that these words, like a lot of these Korean words, they're not, designed to be spelled out in English letters. And so it's just really hard to find the right way of writing them. And so in my research, I realized that there is actually an official revised, I can't even remember what it's called now, like a revised romanization system of writing Korean. But there's been different systems in the past, and people use a mix of different systems. And so it was very confusing to try to decide which system to use. Were they going to stick to one system or use a multi? Oh, it was quite a headache. So that was kind of interesting for me. But again, I mean, having a glossary and even just having, the basic guide on pronunciation was a counter to that to make that process a little easier. Yeah.
And you really do delve eh, for those of us who love to discover different cultures and things like that. You really give us a great dose of Korean mythology and just Korean customs in general. It's embracing, again, you're telling kids, embrace who you are. Embrace the fact that you may be a blend, a mix, or whatever. And don't let that stand in the way of being who you are.
Yeah. Um, My husband and I, we often say that we have the best of both worlds because our child, she's 3 years old and she's mixed race. And she and our family, we get to choose from a smorgasbord, essentially a buffet of cultures. And we take the ones that we embrace and love and we inject it into our family, and then it becomes our family culture. And I think that's the thing, the richness you get from embracing different parts of yourself, that you can choose and build a culture that fits you, within the cultures that we've been raised in. So it's been, yeah, it's a continual journey of discovery and acceptance and also fun.
I've heard that Disney might be interested in you.
Oh, you mean as on screen?
Uh-huh.
So the books have been optioned by the Disney Channel to be turned into a TV series. But so this is what happens. I've heard that in the publishing industry, you get a whole string of no's until you get one final yes, and then it all happens. And I heard in showbiz, it's the other way around. So you get a whole lot of yeses until you get one big fat no. So who knows what will happen if it does end up being turned into a TV series? It would be mind blowing. I just don't even know what that would feel like. Um, but also, I'm very level headed about it. Lots of books get optioned and never get turned into series. So I'll just hope for the best. And yeah, we'll just see. Wouldn't that be amazing, though? My goodness.
Your characters, the way you light up my mind with their colors, the creations, the many different things that they can do. One flies, one has the head of a woman, the little caterpillar that crawls and is fed and eating a leaf. Just right from the very beginning, you take and slap us awake and keep us writing the whole time. What's coming up next for you?
So now that this trilogy is finished, I'm working on a new series. It's still in development, so there's not too much I can really say about it. But one of the things that I have been inspired by, that this world has been created around, is my fascination with dreams. Because I heard that we spend a third of our lives asleep, which essentially means by the time you're 90, we've spent 30 years in bed, unconscious, asleep. That's a lot of time in our lifetimes to be spending in bed. And so I guess my question that I was mulling around that led to this new work is, what if where we went in our sleep was not just in our minds, but like a real place? What would that look like? What would happen there? So that's kind of the seed of the idea. And I'm just really excited to develop it more. And that should be coming out in 2025. So not next year, but the year after.
Well, I enjoy your writing. I'm looking forward to talking
Thank
with you again when
you.
something new comes out. But if you could leave a word for your young people, that the middle school and even a little bit older, what would it be?
Mm. It would be to believe that magic is inside all of us. Um, if you believe, if you accept yourself and all the things that somehow sometimes seem contradictory, just embrace all of it, believe in what you're capable of, and make the choice. Make the choice to be um, to shine bright, because that magic and that choice is inside all of us.
Well, listen, thank you very much. Of course, I wish you much success. Once again, it is our guest, New York Times bestselling author Graci Kim. The final to the Gifted Clan series, and maybe you should go back and read the others too, is The Last Fallen Realm. For more on her novels plus upcoming appearances, go to her website, Gracie, and that's GRACI, Kim.com. GracieKim.com. You can also find her everywhere on social media. Until next time, seek peace and spread lots of love. I'm Maggie Linton.